Listen, it has been a minute and my month 10 and 11 updates are long overdue. So, welcome back to my Substack journey. This is me growing my Substack to $96,000 a year. And while I'm not there yet, I'm sharing with you the progress along the way. And in this episode, I failed. And I mean, you never really fail until you quit, but this is the first 2 months that I am failing. And while I think there are several different things that have contributed to my first failure along this journey, I think that this has been the two biggest months of learning that I'm excited to share some of my insights with you. But first, hello from many different places in the world. Part of the reason why I didn't share a video update with you guys on month 11, 10, or 11, well, now month 11, is because I was in Japan. I was in Kyoto where I was working remotely for an entire month. I also stopped by Tokyo and Osaka, and I have a whole travel guide on my blog, amysudo.com, about how to work remotely in these places, and it's beautiful. Japan was amazing. And then from Japan, I started a waterfall tour. I was in Taipei and then Singapore, which had an indoor waterfall in the airport, which was amazing. And Taipei just had so much bubble tea. It was amazing. It was really beautiful, very humid in both of these places in the springtime. But I have travel guides on my website for Taipei, and soon I will put up the Singapore one also. And it's just beautiful. And there's so many cute coffee shops and tea places. It was a great time. And then also big news, you might have seen my announcement video on this YouTube channel, but I have a new book, The Nomad Detective. And if you are somebody who likes mysteries, rivals to lovers storylines, plucky female characters who are solving crimes while traveling the world, inspired by my travels as a digital nomad, then you should check out The Nomad Detective. The link is in the description. I've just started accepting pre-orders on Amazon for this book. It officially drops on August 1st, but every pre-order helps boost the book in the Amazon search algorithm. So if you want to support, if you like detective stories, you will love this first book of mine. It is a debut fiction collection. It is a short story series, but all the short stories are with the same characters, and it's great. You're gonna love it. I'm excited for you to read it. But let's dive into my failure. So the numbers are stagnating. And so I was wondering when/if this would happen on the journey, which is when you're building a Substack or a business or anything, when do you hit a plateau? And then what do you do in that plateau? And part of the reason that I was curious when this would happen or if it would happen is because I've changed my niche kind of back to the first niche that I had when I started my Substack, which was when it was named Diary of an Author. And the reason why I changed it from Diary of an Author to From the Desk of Amy Sudo is because I have a lot of interests and they revolve around writing, travel, books, and then also entrepreneurship. But what I realized over the course of the last almost year is that the only thing that I'm really interested in with entrepreneurship is how it relates to writing, travel, and books. And when I started to try to make like writer entrepreneur kind of the niche for my Substack, I realized pretty quickly that that wasn't something that really clicked with me, and that I mostly just wanted to talk about writing, travel, and books and thriving as an author. And so in the last 2 months, I basically stagnated at exactly where I was for paid subscribers for the month 9, but I did gain more total subscribers. I think I gained like 200 more total subscribers in the last 2 months, which is great. My 30-day views have gone up nearly 1,500. But my open rate has decreased, my annual revenue has decreased, but my followers have increased. Although I think if you're on Substack, I'm curious if you really count this metric at all, because what does followers even mean on Substack? So here's the lessons I've learned from stagnation. I'm experimenting with different features. If you are on my Substack and you're subscribing to me on From the Desk of Amy Sudo, then you can, and if you aren't, you can get to the link in my description. I have a free tier as well as a paid tier. You will notice that I've done a lot of experimentation with the podcast feature, with the threads feature, with the paid subscriber chat feature. I've also been doing things like free Substack audits. I'm going to be doing a Zoom class on how to be a digital nomad at some point. I'm thinking about doing a book club. So I offer like a lot of different things, and I'm experimenting with a lot of different things. And I know that some of my experimentation will fail, and some will also succeed, and some will just kind of stagnate. And so while I'm testing out the different features that Substack has, including moving my podcast, which is currently hosted on Buzzsprout, to Substack, I'm doing that in part because Substack hosts your podcast for free, and it's a lot easier if you have an audio track embedded as a voiceover in your Substack post. It automatically turns that into a podcast episode, which is great, much easier for your workflow. But one of the types of posts that I've been experimenting with is threads. So I've been seeing a few other writers on Substack, including Emma Gannon, do really well with this format. And basically, you ask your audience a question, and then you kind of write a little bit about what your thoughts are, and then they leave a bunch of answers and responses. This has been an interesting place to spark discussion, and something I'm going to continue experimenting with, because I think the community aspect of Substack is awesome. And so I'm trying to figure out how to create space on my Substack for community discussion, for people to chime in and talk about things. And so I'm trying to kind of figure out and play around with this. So I've only done 2 of these so far, but so far it's been like a really good, like thoughtful comments and conversation. And so this is brand new. And currently I'm using this to not only like replace my Wednesday posts, which I used to write full posts, but to like maybe add some variety in the mix, because some people might not want to read 2 full written posts from me a week. They might want to do see a discussion, or they might want me to swap out my Wednesday posts with a Zoom class or a Zoom lecture or something. And so I want to keep the cadence of Sunday, Wednesday, and my Sunday posts are pretty much the same still, but I've added a paywall to them a few months ago. And so I think that has also kind of like affected my view rate of the number of viewers that I've had, and is not growing as quickly as it was before. But, I'm still experimenting, and I'll keep you updated, and once I've kind of like figured out what works with these features, I'm going to share with you guys tutorials and things like that. Um, but one thing that I recognize is that from the beginning, I had a pretty heavy focus on how to grow on Substack and make money on Substack. And I don't want to become one of those writer creators who is literally just on a platform talking about the platform. I've seen a lot of creators, like even Ali Abdal, who I think is great and has like a lot of really interesting stuff. I think that even his content, if you're familiar with him, he's a YouTuber that talks about growing on YouTube and productivity tips. I think that stuff becomes stale after some time. And I think that like I'd rather be a writer known for writing about travel, books, and the writer's life, and giving you a behind the scenes process of what it's like to be an independently published author, publishing my own books, what it's like to kind of like be a writer who travels and is also a freelancer. And so I'd rather put my behind the scenes front and forward. I'd rather share my philosophy about life rather than have every like third post be about Substack. And so I think because I'm no longer doing such a high volume of how to grow on Substack posts, I think that I've lost some audience members who jumped on board from this YouTube channel, I'm sure, because of that. And so this is tricky, because growing on Substack is obviously on my mind, because it's something that I've set a very ambitious goal for. It's something that I think is like going to be really complementary to the books that I'm writing. And I also think it's just really fun, and I love it. And I'm a very competitive person, and I like setting very ambitious goals for myself. However, I do recognize that this is probably what is contributing to the stagnation, and I don't want to continue just pushing out how to grow on Substack posts, because I think that there's only so much you can say about Substack. And while certain Substackers have made their whole entire Substack about growth, that's not what I want to do and not what I'm interested in. What I want to do differently is get more clear on my ideal audience. I want to stay focused on more specific niches, so books, travel, and behind the scenes of the writer's life, and not get too far out of those. Occasionally, I think I'm going to post some personal essays and things like that. as they were kind of like relate to these three things. But the thing that I'm going to absolutely continue to do is stick with the process because I love it. And this is like my biggest lesson of the last 2 months of watching the numbers kind of be stagnated is that it is a marathon and not a sprint. And I think that this is something I have to keep reminding myself, and something that I see with a ton of other creators as well, where you're just kind of like creating, and like you have a little bit of progress and stagnation. Maybe you kind of go backwards a little bit. And then I see a lot of creators eventually hit like a hockey stick. And that's usually when I discover them. It's like, oh, you hit this moment that like you really just like were just going at it for years and then it just like took off. I think all of us are waiting to be that overnight success when that overnight success takes like 3 years. And so luckily, I am obsessed with writing and sharing what I'm learning, sharing my travels. Right now, I'm in this really beautiful apartment in Istanbul, Turkey, and I'm going to be writing about Turkey in my next travel blog. And so you can find my blog in the link below. And this apartment is just such a gem, and I'll link to it as well after our stay in the travel blog. And so I want to share the experiences of traveling the world and writing and inspire people to really kind of like get the most out of the writer's life. And if you want to join me on that journey, of course, you can follow me on my Substack below, and you can remember to subscribe this channel and maybe like this video, because I think if we're all finding things that we're obsessed with, like for myself, writing and creating on Substack and for my books, then I think the world would be a better place. I think everybody would be a lot happier. And so I hope that you find the thing that you're obsessed with and you keep on going. And I will see you next month.